Hello, friends. Now, there are many accounts of so many people who get lost in the wilderness on a seemingly daily basis. While many of us think we're prepared before heading out on that family camping trip or scenic day trips where we just go and clear our minds alone with nature, or maybe just going for a little walk along a trail with someone we love. It seems once we get lost, however, we almost forget everything we've Googled or learned from watching videos like those on this channel. It's not long before the panic sets in, and in some cases, we realize that everything we've learned and prepared for was of little to no use, and we are stuck relying on our wits and natural sense of intuition if we want to make it out alive. Today, we bring you hikers who were missing, some who were even presumed to be dead, but all of which made it out of their ordeals alive. Josh Mcache. 37-year-old Josh Mcache went on a hike by himself in June of 2019. Josh wanted to go on a day hike all alone and explore the scenic views and well-worn trails of the Caney Creek Wilderness area in Polk County, Arkansas. The trail he went missing on, the Buckeye Trail, was very mountainous and harder to navigate than most of the other trails in the area. Josh was just looking for some relaxation and adventure, but ended up getting lost and unable to find his way out of the deep depths of wilderness and forest. Though he did have the presence of mind to try and text his mother to say he desperately needed help and was lost, it was all to no avail because of the usual spotty cell phone service one encounters in the woods. Those few texts Josh was able to send didn't include his location. All his mother knew was that her son was stranded in the woods, and now the clock would be ticking for her to get help if she wanted her son to be found alive. Those texts were also the last anyone would hear of Josh from the time he sent them until the time he was finally rescued a week later. Polk County Sheriff's Office explained that lost hikers are actually very common in the area where Josh had lost his way, but he also said they are usually found fairly quickly. As mentioned, however, this wasn't the case with Josh Mcache. Josh brought with him some protein bars and water, and also filtered straw to potentially be able to drink any unclean water he should come across if the need had arisen, which, of course, like anyone else who traverses the wilderness looking only to spend a day, he did not believe it ever would. Boy, was he wrong. Josh was a bit more well prepared than most people who, just at the drop of a dime due to boredom or a sense of adventure, because he had been meticulously planning this particular hike for at least a month before he set out on it. However, this was his first time hiking alone, and while he thought he knew what to expect, when he found himself lost, he realized there's nothing that can truly prepare you for it. Many people wondered why, if Josh was able to text his mother that he needed help, he couldn't be tracked by a cell phone ping. Easy enough and a reasonable thought, but cell phone towers out in that area are at least 40 miles apart and aren't very accurate. Therefore, it's very hard to triangulate and pinpoint location. There were many things that initially threatened to stand in the way of Josh's rescue as well. Inclement weather events and what was only described as timing issues made the search and rescue effort become delayed for a time. Finally, this timing mentioned by law enforcement was considered just right for making the attempt at getting Josh out of the wilderness alive and home to his family. A National Guard helicopter, which was equipped with infrared technology, was sent up to locate him, and it did. It took only 30 minutes for the helicopter crew to spot Josh, but it took almost an hour by foot for the search and rescue workers to actually physically reach him. He was about 3 miles off the Caney Creek Wilderness Trail. Josh was brought to the hospital, where he was surrounded immediately by family and loved ones, all of whom had been posting updates on social media. Aside from being a bit shaken and majorly dehydrated, Josh was described as being in good spirits. We're happy to report he has since made a full recovery. Edward Lee Alderman. Before being rescued and found alive in the wilderness, Edward Lee Alderman was last seen at around 4 p.m. on Thursday, May 20th, 2021, leaving the summit of Mount Whitney. Mount Whitney is the highest mountain in the contiguous United States and the Sierra Nevadas. There were repeated appeals and desperate attempts to not only warn but to give advice to hikers on these trails and those who are climbing the summit but still there was a spike of missing hikers over the past year. Many of them, unfortunately, ended in a fatality. Edward Lee Alderman of Texas, however, would be an exception. A high-elevation search and rescue operation went underway for Edward when he was first reported missing on May 21, 2021, just one day after he was last seen descending the summit. There was a late-season winter storm which had to pass through the area as well before the search could even get off the ground. It was ground searchers who found him, however, in the vicinity of Timberline Lake, several miles west of the summit of Mount Whitney. He had gone off course and gotten lost, like so many others before him. A missing hiker just a month before, in April of 2021, went missing in the same area as Edward and was found deceased. When Edward Lee Alderman was found, he was reported to be alert, even despite his exposure to fatally freezing temperatures, exhaustion, and some minor injuries. We are thrilled and relieved to report that Mr. Alderman is alive, safe, and on his way to definitive medical care, says Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Park's Incident Commander Dave Fox. Dave continues, with large numbers of people heading into the wilderness this summer, we urgently remind everyone to prepare carefully for their trips and understand that there are real risks out there. We know that Mr. Alderman and his loved ones have been through a lot in the last few days, and we're so glad he's going home. Daniel Ring. 33-year-old Daniel Ring was dropped off at the Elfin Lakes trailhead on July 7, 2021. He was intending to camp at Rampart Ponds, but he never returned home. He had brought enough supplies to last him for a few days, but nothing beyond that. Nobody ever truly expects to get lost in the wilderness and potentially die if not found in time. Daniel Ring survived 2 weeks, however, with nothing but those meager supplies which are only meant to last a couple of days. Though the body can last for quite some time without food, water is absolutely crucial for survival. He was found along the Pitt River, so he had a source of water. While it's not recommended that people hiking on a day trip fill their bottles up with creek water because there are illnesses and bacteria out there. But if you're in a situation like Daniel, where you are lost and almost definitely going to become dehydrated and die if you don't find a water source you can drink from, finding fresh water is the first thing you should do. This is exactly what Daniel did, and most likely what saved his life. Squamish search and rescue members were assisted by other teams from across the province. Daniel was found quite a ways from where he was last seen. He was so far off that he actually fell outside of the jurisdiction of Squamish search and rescue. The discussion that we have are around probabilities, and there's actually some good science behind where people go when they're lost and the probability of finding people in certain areas. That's the science part that our team doesn't have the expertise in, and so we called in that expertise on the first day of the search. Squamish search and rescue manager Landon James explained. He adds, is the Pitt River a logical place to end up? Not when you look at the map. But of course, now that we know where he was located, you can possibly see a trail of how he might have gotten there, he told News 1130. James states it's always important to have a plan before you head out into the wilderness. Always let someone know where you're going and when you expect to be back. Ron Bolan. University of Oklahoma professor Ron Bolan went missing in Nevada in July of 2021. He was last heard from on Tuesday the 13th of July when he communicated to his daughter that he had reached Boundary Peak in Inyo National Forest at around 3 in the afternoon. My dad is very good about communicating, so he communicates before he climbs, when he reaches the summit, and when he lands, said Ron's daughter Meredith. Ron is an avid climber and well-traveled man, the last person anyone would expect to go missing or even get lost on a trail or a climb. After finishing up his climb at Boundary Peak, Ron was planning to meet up with a group of 12 other people to do another climb, this time as a group. The family contacted the authorities and reported him as missing the next afternoon. Boundary Peak is very tall, standing at 13,000 feet and being 200 square miles around. The Esmeralda County Sheriff's Department led a team to search, along with the U.S. National Forestry Service. You can only go 3 days without water, so it's a pretty important day and a pretty important time. He had a lot of water with him, but it's a hard climb. The assumption is that he might have slipped and fell down and gotten off the trail, and maybe he tried to use his phone to get back to the trail. That's the hope, Ron's daughter told the media. Miraculously, Ron Bolan was found after 4 days in the wilderness, trying to find his way out by himself. Lost and afraid, perhaps, but well stocked with water and other essentials. Ron was well planned, and it most likely is what saved his life. Other than being dehydrated, Ron was all right and was even able to speak with his daughter over the phone after being brought down the mountain by search and rescue. Renee Chung. With everything we know about not only being safe, but being prepared while going out on any kind of adventure in the woods, all of the things we know not to do to avoid misadventure, it was quite a surprise the way 46-year-old Renee Chung was found after being lost in the Mount Waterman area of the San Gabriel Mountains. One of Renee's friends called and reported missing and said that Renee had sent a photo to a friend and a text which advised that he was lost and his cell phone was dying. Chung's car was then found near the Buckhorn Campground, roughly 25 miles northeast of downtown Los Angeles. It was not known which trail he took from there. The photo showed the hiker from the knees down, apparently on a precipice with a canyon below and slopes in the distance. However, Renee didn't know exactly where he was or where he was even going. The legs in the picture were very dirty. It was thought that possibly they had gotten that way from a nearby wildfire burn area. Weather over the mountain range was very cloudy that Tuesday, as a deep marine layer pushed far in from the ocean. When the sheriff's office announced that Renee had not only been found, but how he was found, there was a lot of disbelief. Here's what the man who found him, whose name is Benjamin Kuo, had to say. I've got a very weird hobby, which is, I love taking a look at photos and figuring out where they're taken. Benjamin took on the LASD's challenge and responded on social media with his coordinates of where Chung could possibly be. Sergeant John Gilbert of the LASD's Crescenta Valley Station remarked that the photo was a very good clue, which was definitely worth investigating. They sent Air Rescue 5 back to recheck the area in which Benjamin Kuo had pinpointed and see if there was anything or anyone there, mainly Renee Chung. After being rescued, Renee and Benjamin finally met face to face. Renee, who was very emotional, told Benjamin, I crazy appreciate what you did. I really don't know if I could make it there another day. It was just so cold. Benjamin responded with, from the image in the background below your shoes, I was able to figure out where you were. Pretty close. Renee said he suspected that the reason he got lost was there was a recent wildfire in the Mount Waterman area, and it burned down some signs, forcing him to take a wrong turn. And finally, Kimberly Haynes. After being missing for 4 days, search and rescue crews were finally able to find a missing woman, Kimberly Haynes, by calling her cell phone. It just happened to have some service despite being in the deep woods of Mount Tenerife. Kimberly decided to take her dog on a 15-mile loop run at about 9 in the morning, an entire 4 days before this amazing rescue by cell phone. Search and rescue weren't just able to know that she was okay because of her ability to answer the call, but they were also able to pinpoint her exact location and send in a rescue team for her. Because she left so early in the morning and was an experienced hiker, when she didn't return by 6 p.m. that night, her family became immediately concerned. This was right about the time she would usually be returning home. When they went to the trailhead to find her, they saw no sign of her except for her car. Search and rescue crews were called out right away and searched all through the night, multiple nights, without finding any sign of Kimberly or her dog. Kimberly and her dog were both taken to nearby hospitals, a veterinarian hospital for the dog, of course, and both were okay and both made a full recovery from their minor injuries, mainly dehydration and good old-fashioned fear. Kimberly's mother-in-law, Karen Haynes, told the public of her daughter-in-law's harrowing 4-day ordeal. It's amazing. You go from hope to despair. You can't describe it. Well, friends, there you have it. What do you think of these amazing true tales of survival? It is refreshing to be able to have an episode of people that made it out alive. So be safe out there in the woods. Live to tell the tale. Thanks for listening. I look forward to your comments, but please keep it friendly. In the meanwhile, be good to yourselves and each other. And I'll see you just a little farther on down the trail. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'll talk to you next time.